One, I think a very bad tactical mistake was made in autumn 2012 when essentially George Osborne recognised that his strategy had actually failed on exactly those terms that Krugman outlined, and he abandoned his fiscal targets, and they let the automatic stabilisers kick in. They used welfare spending, which is why welfare spending went up under this government, and they spent more on infrastructure, not as much as they might have done. Now, at that moment, what the Labour line, I believe, and what a lot of Labour people now think should have been, was, oh, well done, congratulations, you've now adopted a sort of plan A minus, plan B plus. You've done about half of what we said you should do, and you're going to get a half-assed recovery as a result. And then Labour would have been in a position when the recovery came along to say, look, well, you did half of what we said, and you've got half a recovery. If you'd listened to us better, you'd have an even better recovery, and they would have been in a much better position. But instead, what they did was they said, stubborn George Osborne, he's sticking to the script, he's not shifting. He had shifted, and that allowed George Osborne, when the recovery came along, to say, I stuck by my guns, I held my nerve, you called it wrong, Labour. And that was a very, very serious tactical mistake. The other very important point I would make about that is that if you, in this sort of marriage in a parallel universe where there wasn't a political argument about the deficit, and it was okay, Labour had just sort of had gone into the next parliament, they'd lost for other reasons, and the conversation was all about the NHS or something else. Separately, by the time you'd reached 2010, had Labour actually run out of good, effective ways to procure good social outcomes in the way that they were spending the money? So if you didn't, the deficit wasn't politically toxic, but you just had this sort of central top-down, money taps on, essentially, pouring money into the NHS and schools, were you actually buying the right kind of social change for that money? And the answer, a lot of people say, is actually no. And so therefore, Labour, what they really needed to do was to have a conversation about saying, we accept that it isn't our money, we've taken it from other people, and we're spending it on their behalf, but we've got to make sure that we're getting kind of a good social return on that capital. And they haven't, certainly Ed Miliband really struggled to, I think he struggled for a while to comprehend that argument. Then, when he did understand it, he really struggled to make it, and that's really helped with that.